Chosen one, listen carefully. This moment was not stumbled upon, it was summoned. Out of all times, all messages, all paths you could have crossed, you are here now because something you carried, something you endured, has reached its final breath. Heaven itself arranged this intersection. Tomorrow is not just another day, it is a closing, an ending written not by chance, not by luck, but by what you have done in silence. You've walked through shadows others never saw. You questioned yourself in the dark while still showing strength in the light. You kept going when clarity was missing, when prayers felt unanswered, when the weight on your chest had no name. And chosen one, before we go deeper, pause for a moment, hit subscribe, like, and comment amen if your spirit is already responding. Because this message is about to speak directly to you, not to the crowd, not to the noise, but to the part of you that kept standing when it would have been easier to disappear. There is a reason the pressure intensified lately, a reason old memories surfaced, a reason resistance showed up right before relief. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned. Heaven has been watching the way you chose integrity over revenge, patience over reaction, faith over bitterness. Every time you didn't quit, something shifted in the unseen. Every time you held your ground, a line was drawn in the spiritual realm. Chosen one, this is the moment of recognition. The investigation phase is over. The testing season has completed its work. What you thought was delay was actually divine timing calibrating itself around your growth. You weren't being ignored, you were being prepared. And now, revelation begins to rise. Because of what you've done, what you refused to become, what you endured without losing your soul, it ends. Tomorrow is not random. Tomorrow is a response. The cycle that drained you, the burden that followed you, the weight that made you question your calling, it comes to an end. Not quietly, but decisively. This is divine validation. Heaven is confirming that your obedience mattered, your restraint mattered, your survival mattered. You didn't just make it through, you altered the outcome. Light is stepping in where shadow once lingered, and purpose is replacing confusion with precision. So stay with me, chosen one, because what's about to be revealed next will explain why tomorrow changes everything, and how to step into what's been waiting for you all along. Chosen one, let this truth settle gently but firmly into your spirit. Endings are not always loud. Some of the most powerful conclusions happen quietly, without applause, without witnesses, without recognition. What triggered this ending was not rebellion, not force, not escape. It was obedience. You stayed when leaving would have brought relief. You remained faithful when quitting would have been easier on your emotions, your body, your mind. And heaven noticed every single time you chose to stand instead of surrender. There were moments when discipline felt heavier than the burden itself. Moments when comfort was right there, within reach, offering you an easier path, a softer landing, a quicker escape. Yet something within you refused to take it. Why? Because even when you didn't fully understand what God was doing, you trusted who He was shaping you to become. That choice, repeated over and over in small, unseen ways, began to close doors you didn't even realize were still open. Ask yourself this, chosen one, how many times did you feel like you were missing out while others moved ahead? How often did obedience feel like delay, like restriction, like silence? But what if that restraint wasn't holding you back? What if it was protecting you? What if every time you said no to comfort, no to shortcuts, no to compromise, something toxic quietly lost access to your future? Obedience has a way of rearranging the unseen before the visible ever changes. While you were focused on surviving the day, heaven was adjusting timelines. While you were choosing consistency over excitement, doors tied to old cycles began to close on their own. No confrontation was needed. No dramatic ending was required. The assignment simply expired because you outgrew it. This is where the story shifts, chosen one. The ending you're experiencing now is not loss, it's alignment. That season could not follow you forward because your obedience made it incompatible with where you're going. What once had permission no longer does. What once lingered now dissolves. What once drained you no longer has access. Can you feel it? That strange mix of relief and uncertainty? That's the sensation of something ending before something new fully reveals itself. It can feel quiet, even unsettling, but it's sacred. You didn't force this ending. You earned it through endurance, through restraint, through choosing what was right even when it was lonely. So take a breath, chosen one. Honor the weight of what you've done. Your obedience didn't just keep you safe. It triggered the ending of a chapter that was never meant to define your future. And as that door closes, ask yourself, what kind of strength did this season build in me? And how will it serve me in what comes next? Stay present, stay grounded, because the end you triggered is making room for something that could only arrive after obedience finished its work. Chosen one, hear this gently because it carries weight. Not every season ends because you begged for it to stop. Some seasons end because you grew beyond them. You didn't escape this cycle. You matured out of it. And that is a very different kind of ending. Prayer started the journey, yes, but growth finished it. Heaven watched you change while the situation stayed the same. And when the lesson was complete, the cycle quietly expired. There was a time when this pattern had power over you. It taught you through pressure, repetition, and discomfort. It showed you where you lacked boundaries, where fear still spoke louder than wisdom, where faith was present but untested. And you stayed. You learned. You adjusted. Slowly, almost invisibly, you became someone this cycle could no longer instruct. Ask yourself, chosen one, when was the last time it hurt the same way it used to? When was the last time it controlled your emotions, your reactions, your sense of worth? That's how you know growth has occurred. Not when the situation disappears, but when it loses authority over you. You stopped reacting the old way. You stopped needing the same validation. You stopped repeating the same emotional conversations in your head. While the outer circumstances lingered, your inner world transformed. And when inner change reaches a certain depth, the outer lesson has no choice but to release you. Some seasons are teachers, not punishments. They repeat until wisdom replaces confusion. They stay until discernment replaces desperation. They linger until strength replaces survival. And the moment you no longer need the lesson no longer needs to stay. That's not abandonment. That's graduation. Can you sense it? That subtle shift where what once felt heavy now feels distant, almost irrelevant? Chosen one, this is why the ending feels quiet. There's no dramatic collapse, no explosive breakthrough, no sudden announcement. The cycle simply runs out of purpose. It expires because it has given you everything it came to give. What once refined you would now only restrain you. And God does not keep his children in classrooms they've already outgrown. Notice how your perspective has changed. Notice how your tolerance for dysfunction has lowered. Notice how your spirit now recognizes patterns before they repeat. That awareness is proof of growth. That calm is proof of maturity. You are no longer asking the same questions because you already carry the answers. So let me ask you, chosen one, are you willing to honor this ending without guilt? Are you willing to stop revisiting a season that no longer belongs to you? Growth requires release, and release requires trust. You are not leaving too early. You are leaving on time. This cycle did not fail you. It finished its assignment. And now as it fades, something else prepares to take its place. Not another lesson of survival, but a season that reflects who you've become. Stay present, stay grounded, because what ends through maturity makes room for a future that no longer needs to teach you the same thing twice. Chosen one, there comes a moment when resistance realizes it has lost its grip. And it doesn't happen with noise or confrontation. It happens with clarity. What once exhausted you, what once pulled at your emotions and dictated your reactions, suddenly finds no doorway into your spirit. Not because it disappeared overnight, but because you changed. And when you change deeply enough, resistance has nothing left to work with. Think back for a moment. There was a time when certain words could derail your entire day. Certain people could drain you with a single interaction. Certain situations would replay in your mind until peace felt impossible. Resistance fed on your emotional access. your fear, your self-doubt, your need for resolution. But look at you now. You feel it, don't you? The quiet, the distance, the calm where chaos used to echo. What happened? You stopped feeding it. Resistance survives on reaction. It grows louder when it senses emotional leakage. But you learned how to pause. You learned how to observe without absorbing. You learned that not everything deserves a response, an explanation, or a defense. And in that stillness, resistance weakened. Ask yourself, chosen one, when was the last time you felt truly shaken by something that used to control you? When was the last time it stole your sleep, your focus, your sense of direction? That's how you know the ending has already begun. Longer matters, when its threats fall flat, when its presence goes unnoticed, when it tries the same tactics and gets no emotional return. That's when resistance loses power. Not because it was defeated in battle, but because it was starved of access. This is the moment many people misunderstand. They wait for resistance to leave before they move forward. But you moved forward while resistance was still present, and that's why it lost authority. You didn't need permission to heal. You didn't need closure to grow. You didn't need an apology to become free. You carried on, quietly strengthening your inner world until resistance had nowhere left to stand. Chosen one, this is why the ending feels subtle but final. There's no dramatic collapse, no last confrontation, no emotional climax. Resistance simply fades into irrelevance. Its role in your story expires because you no longer require what it came to teach. What once drained you now feels distant. What once controlled you now feels small. Can you sense it? That grounded confidence, that emotional steadiness, that ability to remain whole regardless of external pressure? That's not numbness, that's mastery. You didn't shut down your heart, you fortified it. You didn't become cold, you became clear. And clarity is dangerous to resistance. So take this moment in, chosen one. Acknowledge the power shift. The ending is not something you are waiting for. It is something that is already unfolding because resistance has no access left to you. The door didn't slam shut, it simply closed and locked itself. Stay present, stay aware, because when resistance loses its power, a new kind of peace takes its place. One that doesn't depend on circumstances, but on who you've become. Chosen one, there is something sacred you must understand about heaven. It counts what humans overlook. While the world measures progress by speed, visibility, and applause, heaven measures by consistency. You may not have seen results when you expected them. You may have wondered if your effort mattered, if your quiet faith was doing anything at all. But every choice you made was recorded. Every time you showed up when it would have been easier to withdraw, heaven took note. Consistency is not glamorous. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rush. It moves slowly, almost invisibly, like roots growing underground, long before a tree ever breaks the surface. You were planting while others were watching for fruit. You were building while others were waiting for signs. And in those moments when nothing seemed to change, when days blurred together and progress felt painfully slow, heaven was still working, aligning outcomes you couldn't yet see. Ask yourself this, chosen one, how many times did you almost stop because the reward wasn't immediate? How often did doubt whisper that your effort was wasted? Yet somehow, you kept going. Not because it felt good, but because something deeper compelled you to remain faithful. That quiet persistence became your offering. And heaven does not ignore offerings made in sincerity and endurance. This is where many people misunderstand divine timing. They think delay means denial. They think silence means absence. But heaven's process is cumulative. One decision alone may not change everything, but repeated right decisions reshape entire outcomes. Every time you chose patience over frustration, integrity over shortcuts, faith over fear, a pattern was forming. You didn't feel the shift day by day, but heaven was tracking it moment by moment. Consistency always produces an ending. Not abruptly, not dramatically, but inevitably. What feels slow to you is often precise to God. The ending arrives when the foundation is strong enough to sustain what comes next. That's why the results didn't appear prematurely. You weren't being ignored, you were being fortified. Chosen one, can you sense it now? That subtle confirmation in your spirit? That quiet knowing that something has shifted, even if you can't fully explain it yet? That's heaven acknowledging your steadiness. Not just what you prayed, but how you lived. Not just what you hoped for, but how you behaved when hope felt thin. The ending you're approaching is not a reward for perfection. It's the result of persistence. You didn't burn bright and burn out. You endured. You didn't sprint and collapse. You walked faithfully. And heaven honors those who keep walking when the road feels endless. So let me ask you, can you trust that what you didn't see was still being built? Can you release the need for instant validation and rest in the truth that your consistency has already done its work? Because when heaven acknowledges consistency, change is no longer a question of if, only when. Stay steady, chosen one. What is ending now is not because you rushed, it's because you remained. And what comes next will carry the strength of everything you quietly, faithfully sustained. Chosen one, hear this with a calm but steady heart. What is ending is not your blessing. It is the burden that could not follow you any further. Tomorrow does not mark loss, it marks separation. And separation, when guided by God, is not punishment. It is preparation. Heaven never removes what you still need. It only removes what would slow your rise. There are seasons where it feels like something is being taken away, when in truth, something is being lifted off of you. The weight you carried, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, was never meant to define your future. It trained you. It strengthened you. But it was not designed to stay. God removes weight before he releases elevation, because no one ascends while still carrying what belongs to a lower level. Ask yourself this, chosen one. What have you been holding that feels heavy but familiar? What burden did you mistake for responsibility? Sometimes we cling to weight because we've learned how to survive with it. But survival is not the same as calling. And elevation requires freedom. Freedom of movement, freedom of breath, freedom of focus. This separation may feel quiet. There may be no dramatic farewell, no clear explanation, no final conversation. That's because heaven doesn't need closure to create clarity. What ends now ends cleanly, not violently, not chaotically, simply, completely. God is not subtracting from you. He is refining your load so you can rise without strain. Many people confuse separation with abandonment. But chosen one, nothing aligned with your purpose is leaving you. Only what drained you, delayed you, or demanded more than it gave is being removed. This is not loss. It's relief disguised as release. And relief often feels unfamiliar at first because you've grown used to carrying weight. Can you sense the shift already? That subtle lightness in your spirit? That clarity returning where confusion once lived? That's not emptiness. That's space. Space for peace. Space for strength. Space for what comes next. God clears space before he fills it. He lightens the load before he lifts the position. Tomorrow marks a line being drawn. On one side is the burden, on the other is the blessing. And the blessing requires separation to be fully received. You are not being reduced, you are being unburdened. So let me ask you, chosen one, are you willing to let go without mourning what was never meant to stay? Are you ready to trust that what's leaving cannot harm what's coming? Because elevation is near, and heaven is making sure you arrive unweighted. Stand still for a moment. Breathe. What ends tomorrow does not take from you. It prepares you. And once the burden is gone, you will realize how much higher you were always meant to go. Chosen one, this is the part many people struggle to understand, so listen slowly and let it settle. What comes next could not have arrived earlier. Not because heaven was withholding it from you, not because you weren't worthy, but because timing is part of preparation. If this season had ended sooner, you would have stepped into the next one without the strength, clarity, or discernment required to sustain it. And if it had lasted any longer, it would have begun to delay the very future it was meant to prepare you for. God does not rush transitions, and he does not drag them out either. He moves with intention. Every season has an assignment, and this one stayed exactly as long as it needed to. No more, no less. While you were asking, why is this taking so long? Heaven was asking, are they ready yet? Not ready in talent, not ready in desire, but ready in character, in restraint, in emotional maturity, and spiritual grounding. Think back, chosen one. Earlier in this journey, would you have handled the next level the way you can now? Would you have protected it, stewarded it, remained calm under its weight? Or would it have overwhelmed you, distracted you, or exposed places that still needed strengthening? Growth is not just about gaining. It's about becoming capable of holding what you receive. This is why the ending feels precise, not rushed, not delayed, precise. The timing itself is evidence that this transition is intentional. You didn't miss it, you didn't force it, you arrived at it. And arrival only happens when preparation and opportunity finally meet. Ask yourself this, chosen one, what do you understand now that you didn't before? What reactions have softened? What boundaries have strengthened? What temptations no longer pull at you the same way? These are not small details, Honori. They are confirmations. They show that if the door had opened earlier, you might have walked through it unprotected. And if it opened later, you might have grown weary waiting. God's timing protects both the gift and the receiver. What's next requires a version of you that didn't exist before this season. And now, quietly but undeniably, that version does exist. You've learned how to wait without losing faith, how to endure without becoming bitter, how to remain steady when answers were delayed. That stability is the entry requirement for what's coming. So when the ending arrives, don't question it. Don't second guess it. Don't mourn the timing. Honor it. The season did not end early, and it did not end late. It ended right. Chosen one, this is not coincidence, all right? This is calibration. Heaven aligned the conclusion with your readiness, and that means what comes next is not fragile. It's sustainable. It's aligned. It's built to last. So let me ask you gently, can you trust that the wait shaped you for a reason? Can you step forward without looking back at a season that already completed its work? Because what's coming could only arrive now, not before, not after, but exactly on time. Stay grounded, stay open. The ending proves the future is ready for you, and you are ready for it.